Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about Mulan. Before we begin, let me know in the comments if you were looking forward to this or what your thoughts were if you've seen it already, and make sure to give this a thumbs up if you like these reviews. It helps me out immensely if you do that. Also, if you're new here and you like movies, whether it be blockbusters, hidden gems, or everything in between, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases and some classics. But now, let's jump right into it. This is a remake of the 1998 animated film, and like that movie, Mulan, played by Liu Yifei, disguises herself as a man to serve in the Imperial Army to take the place of her father, played by Tzi Ma. Now she must harness her inner strength so she can realize her true potential and become an honored warrior. I think, like with everyone else, I'm fairly mixed at this point on the Disney live-action remakes. Most of them have ranged anywhere from okay to just bad. The only one that I thought came even remotely close to being anywhere on the same level as the original was The Jungle Book. Maybe Cinderella as well. But I was looking forward to this. Judging by the trailer, the cinematography looked stunning, and it looked like it was going to be this grand, sweeping adventure that was going to be something totally different from the animated movie. And both of those things were technically true. This takes a fair amount of liberties with the original movie, which I'll get to more of in a moment, and it looked absolutely fantastic. The images are stunning, scenery is wonderful, there are a lot of standout wide shots of the landscapes from Mulan's village to the Emperor's castle to the battlefield. On a technical level, it was top-notch. Unfortunately though, while it looked great, the movie itself was far from it. It wasn't bad, I'll be perfectly clear right up front, but this dropped on Disney Plus, and as I'm sure you're aware, it costs $30 on top of your Disney Plus subscription in order to see it, and while it was enjoyable, it certainly was not worth the $30. As you probably expect, it is vastly inferior to the animated movie in nearly every way. And I wasn't looking for a scene-by-scene recreation of the animated movie, to be clear. There's definitely a balance between taking enough liberties and trying to keep the essence of the source material, but it was the things they changed that just end up being to its detriment. I'll get back to what they were in a moment though. Let's start with the positives. Because like I said, it's really not bad, and these positives allowed me to enjoy the movie enough, despite its faults. For starters, the action scenes are top-notch. The fights were really well choreographed, they were shot masterfully. It goes back to what I was saying, how this was great specifically from a visual standpoint. They were very exciting. You get a little bit of the feel of movies like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, Hero, and House of Flying Daggers. Funny enough, one of this movie's executive producers was also a producer on all those movies. Also, the acting is all around great. Liu Yifei does a great job as Mulan. She had a strong presence, her character's established well, and I like the dynamic she had with the rest of her family. I especially like the tension between her and her father. Tzi Ma, who's a really underrated actor by the way, is also one of the biggest standouts here. He wants to bring honor to his family, and he's willing to do anything for them. You know he cares. The character of Li Shang from the animated movie is split into two characters. Mulan's romantic interest is now a fellow soldier named Chen, played by Yusan An, who was fine, but the actual commander was played by Donnie Yen, who was awesome. He makes a great entrance, and he consistently has a strong presence throughout the film. He really felt, no pun intended, commanding. He was one of my favorite parts of the movie. Two other performances I liked were Jet Li as the Emperor and Gong Li as one of the two main villains. Which leads me to my criticisms. The film's choices in changing the story just didn't work for me, and not because, well, that's not how the original movie did it. I think a remake should be judged on its own merits, and on its own merits, the changes just left me not feeling as emotionally attached to this as it should have. For starters, as I mentioned, we get not one, but two villains now. Instead of the Hun named Shan Yu, we get a Roaring warrior named Bori Khan, played by Jason Scott Lee, who is invading the country as revenge for the Emperor killing his father. Okay, this makes his motivations a little more personal, but we barely ever see him. Shan Yu isn't exactly one of the strongest Disney villains, but he had a consistent presence, and despite his faults, he looked and felt menacing. This guy didn't get that all with him, and honestly, he felt sort of whiny. I don't know what this is with Disney taking menacing villains and watering them down the way they do for their live-action remakes. Like they did the same thing with Jafar for the Aladdin remake. I guess maybe it's to make them feel a little more human instead of this typical cackling bad guy, but it's just not working, especially here where we barely see this guy. There was nothing memorable about him. Also, remember Shan Yu's hawk from the animated movie? So that's now the main villain of the movie. Bori Khan is actually the secondary villain, and the hawk is now reimagined as this shape-shifting witch with mysterious powers. That's the main villain. And like I said, Gong Li does a great job, especially for what they do with her in the second half, which I won't spoil. But again, for the first half, we don't see her that much, and we don't really learn that much about her or really feel the full extent of her threat. I never found her particularly intriguing. It's one thing to make your characters shrouded in mystery, but there's balance. You need to still give us enough to make us care, and they didn't even try to do that here, at least for the movie's first half, where they're supposed to hook you in. Also, this movie removes both Mushu and the cricket from the original movie. Instead, we get a soldier named Cricket, whose part felt minimal and barely memorable at all, and Mushu's role is partially filled by a phoenix sent by Mulan's father to watch over her. And this really didn't work because, say what you want about Mushu, but a relationship was built up between him and Mulan over the course of the original, which was part of that movie's heart and energy. The phoenix shows up every once in a while, it's supposed to be symbolic for Mulan, it saves her a few times, and that's about it. It doesn't talk or anything like that. All that emotional connection is tossed to the side with this character change. In fact, there's little emotional connection among all these characters outside of Mulan and her father. In the original, Mulan spends her time getting closer to the rest of the soldiers as well as Li Shang, and there's this sense of camaraderie among all of them. You really enjoy seeing them all work together. She keeps her identity a secret, but she doesn't totally isolate herself, so it hits harder when her identity is revealed and they all feel betrayed for being lied to. Here, she barely wants anything to do with any of the other soldiers. Like I said, all the performances were fine, but I couldn't believe that Mulan suddenly was supposed to be closer with any of these soldiers by the end of the movie. There's really only one scene where she attempts to get along with them, where she's eating with them and they're talking about arranged marriages and her views on them are much different than theirs. But that's it. Instead of seeing friendships built up where we could have had some moments of levity to cut the tension, Mulan here tries keeping to herself as much as possible. While Liu Yifei was good and Mulan was established early on as being a sympathetic character, I didn't enjoy much of the time spent when she's disguised. She keeps her distance as much as possible from Chen, so I really didn't buy it when he's seen more as a love interest later on, and she also tries interacting with the other soldiers as little as possible. So for them to really go out of their way for her later on in the movie, I just didn't totally buy that. Also, part of Mulan's character development involves her having a special chi. Like, her hidden potential isn't just that she's some skilled warrior, but there's something even more there, and I really didn't like that. She's supposedly this chosen one, and I don't know why this is still such a popular character trope. It just makes her feel ridiculous at times. There are moments during some of the fight scenes where she becomes almost like a superhero. She does all these wild flips and twists that kind of just come off as unrealistic. And that's something that left me confused. This kind of portrays itself as if it's going to be this more realistic take on Mulan. But part of what made Mulan in the original so relatable is that she's not some skilled warrior, and she's just someone who's going up against insurmountable odds that she manages to overcome. I don't understand how you're supposed to make this feel realistic and then you give your main character hidden powers that essentially turn her into Wonder Woman, on top of the fact that there's this phoenix that swoops in to save the day when needed, along with a magical shape-shifting witch. It was kind of all over the place in that regard. And it makes the first half easily the weakest part of the film, because when it was supposed to hone in on building character development and relationships, it just felt hollow. It gets better in the second half when there's more of a focus on battles and the visuals, and it ends up saving the movie. I just wouldn't call it great. Overall, this is yet another inferior live-action remake from Disney. Is it the worst of the bunch? No. Is it bad? No. But it has a lot of problems, mainly by taking a lot of the heart that the original had and replacing it with shallow storylines about Mulan being the chosen one and keeping characters at arm's length from each other at almost all times. Still, this movie is saved by a job well done from a talented cast, and from a technical standpoint, it is fantastic, especially shining during the fight scenes. It starts off shaky and it gets better in the second half, and overall it's pretty good, but it'll be free for Disney Plus subscribers in December. Wait till then to see it. Mulan gets a 6.5 out of 10. I'd say this is like a middle tier Disney live action remake. It's not on the same level as The Jungle Book or Cinderella, but there have certainly been a lot worse. But at this point, I'm really not excited for these movies anymore. I thought this was going to be one of the better live action remakes, but it just made me want to go watch the original again, to be honest. So let me know, did you see Mulan, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Are you planning to watch it now, wait till December, and if you did see it already, how did you like it compared to the original? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll catch you next time.